Good morning. I hope that you are all coping well with these unwanted, undesirable moments. This morning, I'm going to talk to you about media theory. When you hear the word theory, it does not mean just one theory, but it's a whole theorization and conceptualization of different types of media aspects, structures, functions, etc. So first of all, why is theory so important in general? So theory provides us with conceptual representations of how things are and how they function in general. They explain to us natural as well as social phenomena. They help us understand why events happen, why tendencies go the way they do, etc. So theories in general provide us with systematic understanding of natural as well as social phenomena, and they also help us figure out problems in our everyday life, and they provide us with what we call intellectual satisfaction. It helps us live in peace with ourselves and with the world. Relating this definition to media, because of the centrality of media in our everyday life nowadays, especially nowadays, we have to approach studying media, introducing ourselves as beginning students in the domain of media by understanding how media aspects, structures, functions, industries function in the first place. In order to do this, today's presentation will help you, will shed light on different aspects of media theory. It will help you understand some of the intricacies, some of the subtleties, some of the techniques, some of the secrets of media industries in general. Mass media theory or theories help us understand how mass media are structured, how they are regulated, how they operate, how they produce messages, how they disseminate these messages to audiences, and on the other hand, how audiences receive these messages, what kind of understanding do they make out of these messages, and how their understandings and their perception of media messages affect their everyday life, their attitudes, their behaviors, well, as individuals, as societies, and as cultures. Before we get into explaining each theory on its own, we have to differentiate within media theory between two directions. The first direction is a set of theories that explain to us how media should function in certain socio-political systems. And the other ones describe to us how media really function in everyday life. In other words, we have to make a distinction between normative theories and descriptive theories. Normative theories explain to us how things should be, and descriptive theories explain to us how things really are. So, something that can help us here in this theorization of media is a recall to Lasswell's model that was produced in 1960. Lasswell asked the central question for anyone who wants to understand media and structures, functions, industries, messages, contents, effects, and so on. He asked his famous question, who says what, in which channel, to whom, with what effects? So if you pay attention with me here, there are 5 distinctive elements in this question, and each one corresponds to a very important layer, a very important area in media studies. So who refers to the communicator, and here it refers actually, as far as media theorization is concerned, to theories that have dealt with control, ownership of media industries, media organizations, etc. The second element in this question is says what. So here we are concerned with the message itself, how it is, let's say, articulated, how it is written as a text. So here there is a set of theories that have dealt with the content of media messages. Well, content analysis theories. And these theories will help us analyze texts and so on. The third element in this question is in which channel. So here, that's what refers actually to the medium, or to the different media through which the media message is channeled and transmitted. So here, for example, the radio is not like television, is not like newspaper, is not like the internet, not like a blog, not like a social network. So here, there is a set of theories that cope with this domain of media studies, which is media or medium theories. The fourth element is to whom, and here we're concerned with the receiver, the one who receives the message, that is the audiences, the large masses. Since we're talking about mass communication, it's not just interpersonal or group or organizational communication, it's mass communication here. So we're concerned with audiences as large masses and how they receive media messages. What kind of meaning do they make out of media texts, for example? How do they understand media messages? What kind of audiences are they in the first place? Are they just like stupid audiences that listen and follow media messages to the letter? Or they are well-informed, smart, intellectual audiences that perceive media messages critically, analytically, asking questions, etc., etc. So audience theories will help us understand this area of media scholarship. Last but not least is with what effect? There is, after all, our exposure to media messages and media channels and programs and shows and you name it, must have an effect on us. Of course, media effects theories are so many. Historically speaking, the first scholars, the first sociologists and media analysts who dealt with media studies in the beginning of the 20th century coped with the effects of media on audiences during the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and even after the Second World War. So effects theories will help us understand, of course, how media messages affect and influence our behaviors, our attitudes, etc. So, to start with, as I said in the beginning, there are two directions. We have normative theories and descriptive theories. I will start by shedding light on some of the most important normative theories that have conceptualized an understanding of how media should function in society in general. So normative theories are about those theories that prescribe, rather than describe, prescribe how media systems should function according to the reigning socio-political regime. So it's the system that defines the function of the media. And as you will follow with me, I will show you like differences, and you will understand clearly, and maybe this will help you situate the Moroccan media system, to which category it belongs, in fact. So I picked up from media theorization in the literature 4 specific models of normative media theory. The first one is the authoritarian model, and the one that reigns in non-democratic countries. The second one is the libertarian model, the one that mainly propagates Anglophone countries, namely the US, Canada, Australia, and to a certain extent Britain. The third one is social responsibility model, which is called the European model, mainly in European countries, and maybe France, the French media system is the best example to refer to as an example. The fourth model is the developmental model, and it's the one that reigns mainly in developing countries. So I will start by the authoritarian media theory, or the authoritarian media model. In this model, or within this model, the authorities own media institutions and control media content. There is always a Ministry of Information that supervises all media organizations, and it supervises all media content whatsoever. So here the media institutions serve the political, economic elites. They do not serve people and citizens. And that's why within this model we find a high level of administrative censorship. What we mean by censorship is that every message should be filtered before it is disseminated to the public. In other words, there is a very strict supervision of what is produced by the media institutions. And that's why within this model, media institutions cannot transgress the dictations and the directives that come to them from the top, that is, from the political system in general. When we talk about administrative censorship, we can differentiate here between pre-publication censorship and post-publication censorship. Pre-publication censorship is the measures taken by the administration vis-a-vis what is going to be published. Sometimes when media, when journalists and editors produce something, they have to show it to the supervisor, to the political supervisor, and what they do, sometimes they omit things, they ask them to alter things, to add things, etc. That's what we call pre-publication censorship. And if ever something is disseminated and displayed to the public and it does not suit the desires of the authorities, of course there are repercussions, there are punishments and retributions that follow, and that's what we call post-publication censorship. That may sometimes go to prison sentences, to paying heavy fines, etc. And that's why within this regime or this model of media, we find high level of self-censorship. Self-censorship is about journalists limiting themselves, and they are aware of what to publish, what to say and what not to say, and they act accordingly. In other words, they cannot say things that would entail undesirable consequences or outcomes later from the authorities mainly. So in other words, journalists do not wait for the authorities and the superiors to tell them what to write and what not to write and how to write and how not to write. They do that by themselves. That's what we call, this is like a brief definition of self-censorship. And of course, as far as the idea and the concept of independence, we cannot talk about media independence within the authoritarian model.